This is Jewel T. Lennard, and I wanted to hop out here real quick and share something that I'm working on this week in the lab. This is kind of a new, not really series, I would say, but something I'm doing to share like productive, active things that I'm using that may provide value for you as you are out here building your business and your revenue engine. So, what I'm working on this week is my cold prospecting. This is an area that I identified based on the Streamline and Scale framework. This is an area where I know I need to do work. In other words, I need a way to increase the volume of leads into my business and increase the conversion rate, right? And so, what I thought I would do is just kind of share where I'm at and what I'm working on. And if you're working on the same thing or you have some tips, some ideas, go ahead and drop those in the comments. So, the first thing is I'm titling this cold prospecting DND DND and digital hospitality, because as I was going through this activity, which is founder led cold outreach, I came up upon a situation where I saw that I could have access to people's email address even when I'm reaching out to them in a cold fashion, and trying to understand what is appropriate, what's not appropriate in terms of communicating with people via their email address. And what I decided is that we need to have what I'm terming digital hospitality. In other words, just because you have access to someone's email address doesn't mean you should use it. And so what I decided is that I'm just going to put every person that I outreach to or who I reach out to, I'm going to automatically put everyone on do not disturb for both SMS and email unless I hear back from them. Now, I do capture the information. I'm going to show you how I do that in just a minute because I think that's relevant. But in general, this is something that I've adopted. Why? As we look at cold prospecting, and let me back up. I'm trying to be organized here. So founder-led outreach is required, at least in the initial stages, because we need to identify that our messaging is correct. We need to understand that our sales process is actually leading to conversions before we take an action to hire appointment setters or VAs to do this work. So we need to make sure that we have a process that supports our revenue engine, and we are the ones to do it. Okay. So what I'm engaging in is founder-led outreach. In the Streamline and Scale framework, this is considered spotlight or awareness. And then it flips over. It's awareness until someone actually responds. And then when someone responds to my outreach, then it flips over to a offer activity, because now we're in the sales process potentially, right? So that's founder-led outreach. Now, the relationship between cold prospecting and RevOps is volume. We need both. We need to reach out to people face to face because it's a warmer conversation. And we also need to reach out to people online because of volume. If you are a founder who is if you are a founder who is looking to scale, you're going to have a way to increase the volume of leads that come through your system. Now, you may think that that's paid ads, but we don't want to do any of that until we have a sales process that is converting at a proper rate. And the way we get there as founders is we do the founder-led outreach and we identify the sales process. And then we can say, and we can document that SOP, that process, and hand it off to someone else. And only then should we be engaging with appointment setters, because until we have a sales process that converts, that we're comfortable with, hiring someone to schedule appointments for you is not going to give a good result because you have to convert those people to customers. Okay. So volume, to have a scalable sales process that we can hand off to somebody else, and then also clean data. Okay. So when I talk about setting everyone to do not disturb, what we ultimately want to do with the revenue engine and with revenue operations is we need a clean data flow, right? So if you're sending out messages to people that, they don't know who you are, you haven't had a conversation with them, and they they unsubscribe or they don't want to talk to you, then it's going to skew your metrics. You won't really know how effective your sales process is because you haven't engaged with people who have engaged with you. So the only purpose of capturing someone who you've reached out to before they've responded is for you to understand the numbers. In other words, I made 50 outreaches this day. I received, 20 people responded. So now it's like, okay, maybe I should tweak my messaging. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's a good ratio. But that's why you want to keep your data clean. So to put everyone on do not disturb, just make sure that your data is clean. So in other words, when someone is communicating with you, when you're taking them through your process, you know that they raised their hand. And you're not getting, a lot of ghosts in your data because someone just didn't know who you were and didn't want to talk to you. Okay. So here's what I'm doing. I don't know if this works for you. I don't know if this is conventional cold prospecting, but I want what works, right? And so what I'm doing is this. I'm going to share with you and I'm going to show you. So the first thing I'm doing is I've identified some very simple statements, questions that I'm using in my process as I introduce myself and my business to people. I put them in text expanders. So I don't know if you have that on your phone or not, but it's just basically a way that you have quick keys to share that. The second thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that I've spent quite a bit of time to understand who my ideal customer is. And so I made sure that the language and the wording and the things that I'm using to communicate with people are in alignment with my ideal customer. The third thing I'm doing is a data entry. Okay. And I'm going to actually show you the reason why this is important. I'm going to share my screen. So right now within Crystallized Systems, the way you input a lead, let me just share. Okay. So this is like a contact record. We're in the demo system right now. This is a contact record. So if I were to go through and I'm doing my cold prospecting, I'd have to go through and input the information here. And I may want to capture information that's not necessarily on the contact record. Okay. And when I'm in prospecting mode, I have a need for speed. I want to make sure that I'm reaching out to as many people as I can. Right. And so this form, I felt like, even though it's available to me, was a little bit too heavy for the activity of prospecting. And so what I did instead is I created a form that I'm using for data input. So let me show you that form. So I created a form that I'm using for data input. And the reason why I like this form is because I'm capturing the information that I need to capture, whether or not it would be originally on a contact record. Okay. So first name, of course, last name. I'm using this form for everywhere. So whether I'm on LinkedIn or if in some cases I'm in Facebook or Instagram or X or TikTok or whatever, this is custom. Okay. This will be, standard fields in the Growth Accelerator platform, but these can be customized to whatever platforms you want. But the point is I can capture the platform. I use one form for everything. When I go to transition to VA and salespeople, this will be easy for them to follow. One thing to learn, one SOP. And I can also capture their platform link and their website and email address. Okay. But as I mentioned before, I'm going to put them on do not disturb. I'm not going to use that information. I like to have it. I also can capture things that aren't immediately on a contact record, like date of birth, like connection date, like phone number, which I also will not use. Okay. The other thing I'm going to add to this, which I just thought about today, is I'm also going to add their pain point. So that'll be another drop down. There's kind of 3 primary ones that I'm going to use. Okay. So those will be there. So the point is that now I'm going to speed up my outreach. I don't have to use an Excel spreadsheet because, and I need to be very focused. So I'm going to use this one sheet, and that's going to automatically update to the CRM. So when I go in and input this information, this is a test system. I'm just going to show you here. You can't really see it. Let me see. This is a test system here. So, and this is test data. There's no one's real contact information here. But so what happens when I submit that form is that it's going to create a contact record right here. And with all that person's information and the information that's not necessarily on a contact record right away. So I have a bunch of options I could use, but there's some other things that aren't here that are going to be in in the contact record based on that form being completed that will have access to. The other thing that we'll do is we're going to have these smart lists. It's going to give me this is sample and this is a demo system. I'm live using it, and this is impromptu, so I'm not sharing live data, but I have a list that based on tagging is automatically going to put those contacts. These will be the contacts that I've reached out to. Here are the ones that have responded. And so there's some automation, some workflows in there that are going to automatically trigger them moving through my system. Okay. So that's what I'm doing here. And let me just see what else I wanted to share real quick. So the workflow automation, it does this. It assigns a contact classification. So it assigns a stage in the pipeline where they're at. And these are all based on a standard taxonomy. In other words, a standard naming or tagging convention, so that when we go to do reporting on our contacts and this portion, our lead nurturing, our lead acquisition, we'll have the data will be clean. It's very important when you're building a business and you're focusing on revenue operations. It's very important that the data be clean so that you can get reporting that matters and is correct. Okay, so it's very important that these have standard assignments. So that's why I'm using the workflow to actually assign a standard naming convention to each type. And I have a whole classification. If you're not in the RevOps for Builders group, there's some template in there, a contact classification that I shared as some digital swag. So if you don't have that, reach out to me and I'll set you up. Also, this workflow sets every record to do not disturb for SMS and email. I'm also going to add, as I mentioned earlier, a classification for the pain point, so I can have reference to that later. It's going to provide me with a smart list. The smart list is going to create a list of all my outreaches, so I have the numbers. I can manage my activity and understand, like, last couple of days I haven't really reached out to as many people as I should. So I'm also going to track the volume of my outreach as well as the leads who have responded. Okay, and I'm going to take notes in my system. I'll be able to take notes on that same contact record without having to go to spreadsheets and follow up and try to figure out where to find them. Everything will be in one place. And then I have a pipeline as well. And the pipeline is going to show, let's see, can I show you this? Is that on this one? Okay, I don't have pipeline on this view. Okay. But anyway, so I also have a pipeline that will actually show me what stage in the process these leads are in. Okay. So that's kind of that's what's going on in the lab. The pipeline is going to allow me to track the lead once the response has been received. It's also going to allow me to track metrics on conversions and just give me visibility. So what's beautiful about this setup, if I must say so myself, is that by using this form as input, okay, it allows me to scale in this way. I could have 10 people all prospecting for me at the same time, all using this exact same form, all populating my CRM all at the same time. That's scalable. And then I don't have to worry about different people logging in. I can give anyone access to this form to do prospecting for me, and I don't have to give them access to my system if I don't want to, right? I'm excited about this. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share today. Just take a few minutes out in the lab. We're talking about Spotlight, cold prospecting, do not disturb, and digital hospitality. I didn't really speak on that, but that just is my term that I use for treating people's contact information with respect, just like you would if you were, meeting them. If you have someone's email address, you want to use it with permission. You don't want to spam them. If you say you want to receive one thing from me, I'm going to give you that one thing, and I'm going to ask you for your permission for anything further, right? And so I just think that's important. I'm going to coin that phrase because now that I've kind of solidified it for myself, that's kind of the guideline that is the guideline, not kind of, that's the guideline I'm gonna go through. So I hope this was helpful for you. It definitely has been helpful for me to clarify how to go about this founder-led cold prospecting, because I know it's going to add a lot of volume to my business. And that is definitely the way to be able to refine the process and create a process that I can then hand off to a team member or team members and then scale. right? We can scale that. I can have 20 people all prospecting for me at the same time. So that's exciting. And anyway, so this is Jewel T. Leonard, and I am here to share in the lab what's going on in Get Crystallized and Crystallized Systems in the hopes that it may help you to build your revenue engine. So I'll see you next time in the lab. Bye for now.